Former President Donald Trump has been indicted for a second time. Chicago criminal defense attorney and former Cook County prosecutor Andrew Weisberg joins us live to give us more insight. Andrew, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Glad to have you. So what do we know about the criminal indictment so far?
Well, we know right now the indictment is sealed, which means nobody can really take a look at it. But what we're hearing is that there's going to be 7 felony charges. They'll probably fall under a couple of categories. First category of charges deals with the mere fact that he has government documents, allegedly had government documents that he's not supposed to have. But the more serious and probably the more interesting charges are what he did with those documents. There's potentially charges dealing with obstruction of justice, which would mean once the government called and said, we need those documents back, we think you have these, did he hold on to them? Did he hide them? Did he have somebody destroy them? Or worse, did he show them to somebody else?
And Trump has already been indicted in an unrelated case in New York, but these charges are more serious. Tell us why.
Well, the New York charges are felony charges, but they are the lowest level felony charges New York has. And I don't think there's really any realistic possibility, even if convicted in New York, that he would spend even a day in jail. These felony charges, or these federal charges, carry much more potential for prison time, somewhere in the 5 to 20-year range. That may or may not happen, but that's the risk he takes on these charges.
Andrew, the indictment came out of the state of Florida as opposed to Washington. Is that of any consequence?
I think it is. The former president's pretty popular in the state of Florida as compared to D.C. And so we have to look ahead to a potential jury trial where 12 people will have to decide if he's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And I think the risk to prosecutors is if you have 2 or 3 or 4 big-time Trump supporters sitting on that jury, it may be very hard to convince all 12 of them, especially the Trump people, that he's guilty.
Is a plea deal within the realm of possibility?
I think the conventional wisdom is that Donald Trump does not like to take responsibility, and so the initial thought would be no. However, I also would imagine he's a person that would not want to risk going to prison. So if there was an offer put to him where he would not have to serve any jail time, I can see him potentially taking a deal. He may take a deal, walk out of the courtroom, and then go in front of cameras and say it's a hoax and it's a witch hunt. But I could see him taking a deal if it was a good enough deal.
Andrew, one last question for you before we let you go. Mr. Trump is due in court on Tuesday. What do you expect will happen then?
Well, a couple things. That would be when the document called the indictment, the charges essentially will be unsealed. We can see exactly what they say, and those will be read at least in some form to the former president, and he, through his legal team, will plead not guilty. That's what they do at the arraignment. Potentially, they'll discuss whether he'll be held in custody during the time when he's awaiting trial, although I don't believe he will be held.
Andrew Weisberg, good to see you. Thank you so much for waking up with us this morning. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Watch breaking news on YouTube. Subscribe to ABC 7 Chicago Eyewitness News.